acerca de su personaje y de pues, todas las implicaciones de hacer esta cinta The Call of the Wild. Démosle por favor la más cálida bienvenida al actor Harrison Ford. Mr. Ford, it's a pleasure to have you here in Mexico.
Very kind, thank you.
Welcome. First, I'd like you to share with us how was the experience to work with Terry Notary, this wonderful artist who first started at the Cirque du Soleil and was your partner portraying Buck, this presenta.
Well, as you mentioned, Terry Notary is a gifted physical artist. He's a former gymnast and worked with Cirque du Soleil. And we used Terry to represent Buck and to perform the activities that Buck that we would later illustrate through computer-generated graphics. But for me to have some place to look and someone to react to, something to react to, we employed Terry Notary. He was brilliant. He was really very useful for the process. I'm very grateful for his help.
And well, The Call of the Wild is a classic in American culture. And now this movie shows us this journey of your character, John Thornton and Buck. But do you think that telling the story from the dog's point of view makes it different? It's more like an emotional thriller or something like that?
Well, I think it's a shared point of view. In the book, the character that I play, John Thornton, has no background, no backstory. We don't know where he comes from. He comes into Buck's life at an important moment, and he's critical to saving Buck and to allowing his journey to continue, Buck's journey to continue. So he's an invention outside of the book, that character. And we wanted to have his story parallel Buck's story, but be a human story. And it's almost the reverse. John Thornton is a man who left his civilized environment, his home, and his family, because of a personal tragedy in his family. His son has died. And he runs away to Alaska to escape his emotional problem. And he finds Buck, and together they're useful to each other. And it's really a story of Buck's seeking his natural place in the world, and it's a story of John Thornton gaining the courage through his relationship with Buck to be able to resume his responsibilities in his life.
Thank you. Vamos a abrir la sesión de preguntas y respuestas y vamos a comenzar con Arturo Tobar, por favor, de Movix.
Hi, Mr. Ford. It's such a pleasure having you here. I'm right here. Hi. It's a pleasure having you here in Mexico.
Thank you.
I want to ask you, was it much of a challenge working with a fully generated computer dog? And was it easier for you having someone being the reference point, or would you have rather had a real dog?
I've worked with real dogs before in movies, and it's always a little complicated. You know, it takes a lot more time. And you don't always get exactly what it is you're hoping for. But No, the job of actor is to pretend that there's something happening that is not. And so it's not really that much more difficult. But for me, I enjoyed it. It was a different kind of challenge, and it really became effortless. But there was a certain physical intimacy with the dog and with Cherry Notary that seemed a little bizarre at first. I was petting him behind the ears for the first week and thinking about it, but I got over that fairly quickly. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Luz, por favor, quiero que nos haga un poco de luz para los compañeros de cámaras. Por favor, cuando les nombre para que hagan su pregunta, pónganse de pie. Así que Luis Gil, de Cine, Información y Más, es tu turno.
Here. Harrison, welcome to Mexico. Not always we have the chance to meet a legend like you. I would like to know your top 5 minutes in your career in history.
Sorry? Your top 5 minutes?
Yes. No. Your 5 moments in your career.
Top 5 moments in your career.
Well, that would be my first job, in which I played a bellboy. My lines were paging Mr. Jones, paging Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, I believe I ad-libbed that. That was my entire part. That was my first major moment. I guess my second major moment was when I was brought into the office of the man who was responsible for the actors that were under contract to Columbia Pictures at the time, and he told me that I would never be successful in the business, and then he told me a story about Tony Curtis. He said that when Tony Curtis was first in a movie, he delivered a bag of groceries, and you took one look at that person and you knew that was a movie star. And I leaned across his desk and I said, I thought you were supposed to think that that was a grocery delivery boy. And he threw me out of his office and later managed to get me fired. So that was the second. Getting fired from that job was really fantastic for me because it let me loose again. That leaves 2 more nominations, and I've had a lot of fun in this business. I've had very good fortune. I've worked with fantastic people, and I'm delighted that I'm still working. I have no plans to quit, and I enjoy what I'm doing as much as I ever did, probably more, and find it engaging and stimulating and frightening. So I hope that answers your question.
Of course, thank you.
Bien, vamos con Adolfo López del Sol de México, por favor.
Thank you, Mr. Report. Talking about your career, I would like to know, you have very iconic characters like Han Solo, the movie of Blade Runner, but I would like to know, after so many characters, so many iconic movies, there's something missing in your career, something that would you like to do in the next years? That's my first question. And my second question is, there are plans to make again Indiana Jones. Why did you decide to take this character after 10 years to reunite with this character?
Well, the first part of your question is I forgot the first part of your question. What's missing? I don't know what's missing. I don't know what's coming. I think the fun of my job is that the projects come along. Some projects I develop and work, anticipate. I know that it's coming. And that process is engaging and interesting, intellectual. But I guess, what I would like to do is what I haven't done. And in between that, to do another Indiana Jones movie seems like a good idea if we have a good script. And I believe we are very close to having the script that we want. And I'm excited about doing it. But for me, it's the work itself. It's the process of working with a new group of people and establishing a collaborative atmosphere and problem solving. That's the work, day to day, of an actor. And that's a pleasure for me. It's still something I very much enjoy doing. And I hope to bring pleasure to, with the other people that I work with, to make films that bring pleasure, intellectual curiosity, bring emotional experiences to the audience. So I'm still enjoying my work and take great pleasure in it. Grateful that I have the opportunity to continue.
Bien, gracias. Rebeca Gómez, de Fórmula Chavos, por favor.
Hi, Harrison, welcome to Mexico.
Thank you.
It's an honor you're here. Well, first of all, you have an incredible career, full of success and highlight moments. What do you recommend for new generations to get their own goals?
Well, the business has changed considerably, and it's, I think, more difficult. Even though it's always been difficult, it's always been a gamble for a young person getting into the business. I think that I think for each person it's a different path to reaching their ultimate capacity. Everybody's different and they have different ways of thinking, different ways of behaving, different ways of relating to people, different stories to tell. But I think the one thing that I say to actors is figure out how to be useful to the process. It's not all about you. It's about the story. It's about the part of the story that your character carries. Find out how to be useful to the process, to be useful to the telling of the story, to be useful to the dolly grip. Match your speed to the dolly. Don't, just be aware of the fact that everybody else is doing a job, and that you are just part of the process, and be as useful as you can to the process.
Thank you very much.
Tania Medina, de TV Mexiquense, por favor.
Hi, Mr. Ford, Tania Medina from Televisión Mexiquense.
Morning.
I would like to ask you, returning to The Call of Wild, how similar are you to your character in terms of relationship with a dog through your life? Were you close, or have you been close to a dog along your life? Thank you.
Yeah, I grew up with dogs, although I was raised in the city of Chicago. We had a dog in our family when I was about 10 years old, I think, for the first time. And I've had dogs ever since. In my family now we have 3 dogs. And, we've always had rescue dogs, dogs that come from animal shelters or that people can't can't keep. And we're dog people. And my son and my wife are also very fond of our dogs, and they're part of the family. So that is an experience that I've had, very similar to John Thornton. I think there are a lot of respects in which, an actor, in order to portray a character, that an actor can only use his own history, his own emotions, his own experience. And then you filter and edit and you cobble together a kind of character. But really the fuel is your own life, it's your own experience. And so you look for emotional relationships between yourself and the character. And I found John Thornton to be a very sympathetic character. He was a man who was looking for really important answers in his life. And in the context of his relationship with Buck, he found new strength, new purpose, and that is the essence of the character for me.
Mr. Ford, you were telling a few moments ago about building the backstory of your character. Did you help to build all the backstory, or it was just in the script?
No, the script went through a lot of process before we started, and it was one of the things that there were few things I proposed. I don't remember whose idea was what, because it always came up in a collaborative atmosphere. But I was anxious to have the character have a emotionally meaningful history, and my collaborators felt the same. So it was invented over a period of time, and everybody contributed a little bit to the telling of that part of the story.
Por favor, Claudia Pacheco de Notimex.
Buenos días, Claudia Pacheco de la agencia Notimex. Por su trayectoria, por la participación que usted ha tenido en distintas películas y los personajes que ha usted interpretado, se le considera como uno de los actores más importantes a nivel mundial. Yo quisiera saber qué opina usted de esta distinción que le hacen, y ahora que se acerca la próxima entrega de los premios Oscar, creo que se le sigue debiendo a usted este galardón. ¿Qué opina al respecto? Gracias.
She's asking that on the next Academy Awards, they owe you a tribute. What do you think about it?
I'll be all right. Nobody owes me anything as far as I'm concerned. I'm very grateful for the opportunities I've had and the relationships that I've had. I don't feel the need for a tribute. I'm still working.
Esteban Macías, ¿está por ahí? Natalia Cano, por favor, de agencia AFP.
Hi. Well, I would like to ask you about your environmental activist role. I would like to talk about your role as this activism, and what do you think about the work that young activist Greta Thunberg is doing and what role we have to play in this fight against climate change.
Well, I certainly applaud what Greta is inspired by and her activism, her role in representing the interests of young people, and I admire her courage and her fortitude, and also admire her capacity to express herself. Young people, it seems to me, throughout the world are taking up the role of leadership that they must do. It's the natural way of the world. And we older people have been trying to solve the problems of what the weight of human population on the planet has done to the natural world. And we have made some progress. We've established some good science, but science is being denigrated. Science is being ridiculed by people in ideological campgrounds. They are refusing the wisdom, the discipline of science in favor of a political point of view. And that has to stop. And I believe young people throughout the world know that it has to stop and are capable and willing to make the sacrifices to make that happen. So I applaud young people. I applaud Greta's part in the leadership of young people. And I consider the threat of the natural world is the single biggest threat to humanity.
Thank you. Berenice Tomasini, por favor, de Fandango Latam.
Hi. Over the decades, Call of the Wild has inspired everything from a silent movie to a Snoopy TV show. What did time and new technologies provide to this new take on the classic novel and the opportunity to create a bigger, more ambitious version of this story?
Well, I mean, the capacity of what we're able to do in computer graphic design is been vastly improved in the last 10 to 12 years. When we started with Star Wars, we're still using models of the Death Star, for instance, and we were moving the camera process. It was a very laborious kind of crude process. And now we've come to the point where we really can represent nature, the natural world, in a remarkable way. And I think what we were able to do with in the production of The Call of the Wild is to create the beauty of nature, the vastness, the scope and scale of nature in a way that we did what we thought helped tell and I think that it was it's a very practical and economical way of doing things. It's not right for every film, it's not right for every production, but in this case I thought it worked very, very well, and I'm very proud of the film, proud of the technical skills of the people who animated. And it was beautiful to look at.
Ángel Pantaleón, por favor, de Javier Poza en Fórmula.
Hi, sir. Welcome to Mexico.
Thank you.
Last year, you spoke about the care of the oceans and also about the USA government. Currently, I would like to know what's your opinion about the natural disasters that we had seen recently, and also what's your opinion about the immigration policy that the USA government has taken, please.
This is we're facing some real pressing issues in America, and we're working hard to sort them out. Certainly, immigration policy is ludicrous. We need a complete reform of our immigration policy. We need to invite people into the country, not keep them out. This is the history and of America. It depends on immigration. Our position in the world is tenuous because of our lack of moral leadership, basically. We've lost some of our credibility in the world, and we are anxious to regain it. I think that pretty much covers it. We are facing also, the other part of your question is about climate change and about how we address it. And I think we're making strides, although the United States has pulled out of the Paris Accords, or is about to completely pull out of the Paris Accords. Municipal governments, corporations, businesses of all kinds, political structures of all kinds have stepped in and are assuming the responsibility to confront the issue of climate. And it appears that despite the federal government's lack of involvement, there are strides being made, and I hope they continue.
Por favor, Daniela Salazar, de Animal MX.
Gracias. Después de ver esta película, ¿ha cambiado su opinión sobre la relación del hombre con la naturaleza?
After making this film, has your point of view of the relationship between man and nature has changed?
Not at all. No, I think man is a part of nature, not above it. So I think we best understand ourselves when we see ourselves as part of the natural world and responsible to it. So it hasn't changed much. Hasn't changed at all. I've had that mindset from childhood.
Vamos con las dos últimas preguntas. Por favor, Lucero Solórzano, de Uno TV.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to Mexico City. You have played two of the most worldwide popular characters in the history of cinema, Han Solo and Indiana Jones. And there are many legends about the way you met George Lucas. I read that it was through Glenn Ford or through Francis Ford Coppola. You were working with them as a carpenter. Could you share with us how was this meeting and how did Han Solo was born? How you became Han Solo, please?
Well, first of all, I worked with George Lucas previous to Star Wars in American Graffiti. Played a small part in American Graffiti, so George and I knew each other. But I had a strategy at that point in my career. I went back and forth. I became a carpenter. I educated myself in carpentry and worked on houses, built houses, and various carpentry projects. Was a contractor finally, but I would go back and forth from movie to carpentry. And for me, carpentry was a way of not taking every acting job that came along, because I didn't want to do some of the silly episodic television stuff that I had been required to do when I was under contract to Columbia Pictures. I spoke about that earlier. And carpentry gave me another way to put food on the table for my family. So I would go back and forth. And I was asked by a friend of mine who was Francis Coppola's scenic designer to install a elaborate entrance to Francis's offices, as he couldn't find another finished